Good evening, everybody. You're watching the Just Keep Up podcast, where we're one step ahead. I'm Kurt Johnson. This is Pete Zindros. We're excited to be back to you guys here on this Monday. We have a great show planned for you tonight. We have a lot to talk about, guys, lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story tonight, we're going to be talking all about the draft lottery. The Mavericks and Spurs got the top picks. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the whole theories and things of this nature. It's kind of strange, a little strange how, they trade Luka and then, they get this pick here, which here an article from ESPN says the Mavericks win the NBA draft lottery with 1.8% odds. So that's certainly shocking, but we're going to talk all about it. We're also going to talk about the NBA playoffs, guys. We haven't been here in a while, guys. So we're going to give an update on the NBA playoffs, how it's going, our predictions moving forward, etc. So it is going to be a jam-packed episode for you guys to make up for the lost time. Before we get into it, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe, help us to impact and to reach as many people as possible. With in addition to that, guys, follow me on YouTube and Rumble, guys, at Kurt's Philosophy if you are interested in the world's deepest, darkest secrets. Pete, how you doing, my friend? And do you have anything before we start the show?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Go and follow me, guys, on my YouTube page at Pete's YouTube channel. If you haven't kept up, we started off as just a basic shorts channel, but now we're dropping solo shows there as well. So go check me out.
Cool. All right. Yeah, guys. So we're going to get right into our feature story here. So here's an article from ESPN. It says the Mavericks win the NBA draft lottery with 1.8% odds. The Dallas Mavericks moved past the Luka Doncic trade in resounding fashion Monday by winning the NBA draft lottery and the right to select Cooper Flag in June with the number one overall pick. The Mavericks had just a 1.8% chance to win the lottery and jumped 10 spots to grab the top pick, the biggest move by any team in lottery history, according to ESPN research. Wow, so that's big. The unlikely victory of the lottery comes from only 3 months after Dallas traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers in February, a move that drew widespread criticism among the fan base. And then this is the last story here from the CEO. It says, I'm so happy for Mavericks fans in general from Rick Welts. I only got to Dallas in January 1st. This year, we broke the internet in the Luka Doncic trade, and I'm just amazed that we kept our poise in emotion. And today is one of the better days in Mavs history. So that's a quote from the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks. So, what's your take on this featured story? We didn't get into the Spurs, but the Spurs are in the mix as well. So, just what's your take on all this?
All right. Well, for the Dallas Mavericks, it's pretty obvious. This was a benefit to the Luka deal. When Nico Harrison did this deal, he knew that his two best players were injury prone, Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. And so when Adam Silver theoretically called him to go and send Luka to the Lakers, obviously Silver gave him some benefits, like maybe cash under the table for himself, for the team, all that. But one of them was definitely this. Now, the Mavericks were obviously trying to win games to make the postseason, to make a push with Anthony Davis and Kyrie. But because Nico knew that his two best players were injury prone, there would be a chance that they both get injured and they miss the playoffs. And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, Kyrie tore his ACL. I don't think he predicted that would have happened, but the matters got even worse. So I think what Adam Silver told them was, if you guys miss the playoffs and are in the lottery, we will get you guys the number one overall pick. So don't worry about it. We're going to make sure your future is good and you guys weren't getting destroyed by fans for the rest of time because you guys traded away Luka. I mean, I think it's pretty clear and obvious this is what happened. I mean, this season has been all about ratings for the NBA. They've been trying to do whatever they could to get the ratings up. I think that's why they made Nico send Luka to the Lakers, and now they're gifting them Cooper Flag in exchange for doing that.
Okay, so you think that this is an entire staged event where they knew from the jump this was a sweetheart deal where it's like, hey, you trade Luka to the Lakers, and on top of it, if you don't make the playoffs, we'll give you the number one pick in the draft to go along with Anthony Davis and Kyrie.
100%, bro. 100%.
Interesting. Okay. And then what's your take on San Antonio jumping in there as well?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the Spurs, they finished 13th seed. You know, they weren't a 14th or 15th seed. They were a 13th seed. So meaning normally they should have gotten somewhere around five, six, seven-ish by the odds, and they ended up getting second. What does this tell you? This clearly tells you that they're forcing the Spurs and Bucks to make a move for Giannis. I mean, the Spurs already have all the young assets, you know, to package for Giannis. But of course, because it's Giannis, that probably wouldn't be enough. So I think the NBA pushed them to get second so that the Bucks would be willing to, you know, send Giannis over to San Antonio to pair him up with Wemby.
Okay, so for the people that are newer basketball fans or just getting into this, what kind of go in depth a little more so that it makes sense to the audience. So you think that Giannis obviously came out and he didn't request a trade, but he just said, I'm not sure this is the first time in his career that he wasn't sure if the Bucks were the best spot for him. So what you're saying is a trade could potentially happen where Giannis ends up going to the Spurs because they have the number
Mm-hmm.
two pick.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Interesting takes there. So, my first instinct when I think of the Dallas Mavericks getting the first pick, overall pick in the draft, with which, going off the article here, this was by far the the biggest upset in terms of a team getting the number one pick in NBA history. The odds were not in their favor, and they jumped. I think it's at 10 spots. Come on, like the writing is pretty much on the wall. What happened? Dallas is still shook because of the trade, right? Like the fans, even the NBA is still kind of shook. So I feel like this was just something. I don't know if I think that this was something that they agreed upon earlier, but I mean, you can't run away from the fact that it's like this was the most unlikely outcome, and we got this outcome, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence, right? And then because if you look at it, right, like Dallas is screwed. Like if Dallas didn't get this pick and probably going to get Cooper Flag, they'd be screwed, bro. They're without Kyrie for more than half of the year next year. We all know AD is going to miss time. This was going to be a bottom five, bottom six team in the NBA if it wasn't for this move. So I think this potentially saved the Dallas Mavericks franchise. And then as far as the San Antonio Spurs, I mean, you know, the NBA might have had their hand in it. I don't know. But I definitely know that the Spurs are trying to make a move. If not for Giannis, then potentially Kevin Durant. Who knows? But I do know that the Spurs are in contacts with they're in talks with Kevin Durant. They're going to be in talks with Giannis. They're going to be in talks with other players to try to pair big three with De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. So that's going to be interesting to see moving forward. Any last thoughts on this lottery before we move on?
I mean, I just think it was all set up, and I think the NBA just made it pretty obvious, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. But we're gonna move on here. We're gonna go into the meat and potatoes here. So we have four incredible series going on right now. Two from the East, two from the West. It's been spectacular. The playoffs in general has been spectacular. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of upsets, and some that we expected. So let's jump into the biggest series right now, which is the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. Recently, earlier on today, the Knicks beat the Celtics 121 to 113 in game four to take a commanding 3 games to one lead, or it's game five, I'm sorry, to take a 3 games to one lead. So the Knicks are up 3-1 against the defending NBA champions. What is your take on this series and how it's going?
It's been a complete choke job from Boston, straight up. Like these guys blew back-to-back 20-point leads at home. They were down 2-0. You know, they took game three on the road and they lost tonight. And I mean, I'm looking at the box score here from the game. You know, Jason Tatum had 42, 8, and 4 with 4 steals, shot 57% from the field. He balled out. But unfortunately, it's still his fault that his team is in this position. If he had done this earlier in the series, they would not be down 3-1 right now. I think Nick Wright said it the best, honestly. I don't know how many of you guys saw this or not, but Nick Wright, who's obviously a sports analyst, was talking about Jason Tatum, and he described them as the Kobe Bryant of Paul George's. And I honestly agree with that in terms of, how good he is, how impactful he is to a team. He's around the level of prime Paul George, right? He's not always a guy you could rely on as well, which, I mean, we could clearly see it. I mean, Tatum could go for 41 game, then the next game he could just throw up a bunch of bricks. And he resembles Kobe Bryant's game. So I think Nick Wright saying that he's the Kobe of Paul George's was 100% accurate. However, I don't even know if you could definitively say he's even better than prime Paul George. I mean, looking at prime Paul George, he was better defensively. He was an All NBA defender, although Tatum is a solid defender, but he's not on the level of Paul George in that end. He's not a better shooter either. And then if you want to argue like who's a better scorer or whatever, that's debatable. But he's around the level of Paul George. I think Nick Wright pretty much said it the best. But looking at this box score tonight, though, I also want to give a huge shout out to the Knicks. Brunson had 39 and 12. Michael Bridges had 23, 7 and 3 with 4 steals. Karl Anthony Towns at 23 and 11. And OG Anunoby scored 20 as well. So that's four guys with 20 plus right there. And Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's a dog. He's never had a bad playoff series before. He's always there in the clutch. He's a dog. I mean, I give that guy his respect.
Yeah. So my take on the series is, obviously this is a big shocker. The Celtics came in as a big favorite. Throughout the regular season, the Knicks failed to beat scratch Boston or Cleveland, but just any competent team from the East or the West. I think they ended up being like, what was the stat I saw? 1-11 against teams in the top three of each conference. Like
Mm-hmm.
they struggled all year beating good to great teams. And so this caught everybody off guard. But I think everybody is caught off guard because it's the Knicks, not because Boston is losing. What do I mean by this? I mean, we all know that there was one question behind Boston. Well, really two, but there was two questions, I guess. The first one, which is the main one, is what happens when Boston isn't making their shots and they're playing competent teams, right? Like we all remember last year, a bunch of guys were hurt, etc. So they kind of coasted to the finals, right? And then obviously they faced Dallas in the finals, but Luka's tired. He was all bandaged up, and Boston had Kyrie's number that series, and that's what you got. But other than that, I mean, the competition that Boston faced was not there, right? Insignificant to say the least, right? So now you go into this year and they're facing a good Knicks team, and you're seeing that they're struggling. And then you ask yourself, well, why are they struggling? Well, one, they're facing better competition, right? And two, what we're seeing is Boston is very streaky. Okay, they're very good, but they're very streaky. So they could go up 20, but they're always going to let you back in the game because you can't stay hot forever, and all they do is shoot 3-pointers. So you could face them on a night where they're all making their shots, and you're going to lose by 50. Or you could face a game that they're not hitting anything, and you win by 30. Or, which is the likely scenario that's happening in this series, where you're hot for a quarter or you're hot for a half, right? But can you continuously do that throughout the course of the game? No, which is the reason why they're down. Which is the reason why they're down 3-1. And I also want to point this out about the Celtics too, is they also don't have a real number one, right? And so it's stuck between Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, the rest of the team, Derek White, and I know Jason Tatum has the numbers to be a number one, but if you watch the Celtics, it feels a lot more. It feels a lot like Detroit Pistons 04-ish, right? Like it feels like they have Chauncey. You can make the argument he was the best player, or you can make the argument someone else was the best player, Wallace, etc. But on any given night, one of those guys could beat you. I guess you could say Chauncey was the best player, or whatever. But the only difference is Chauncey Billups was called, the what do they call him, Mr.
Big
Buckets or
shot.
whatever, Big Shot.
Big
Yeah, there
shot.
you
Yeah.
go. They called him Big Shot because he was there in the clutch, right? Well, although that's not Jason Tatum, but this kind of team reminds me of of the Pistons where there's no really like elite player. Like Jason Tatum, as great as Tatum is, he's not a top five player, and he probably will never be a top five player. Just and this is not a discredit to him, but this is just a credit to where the league is, right? Like people are saying that Jason Tatum is being disrespected, that he belongs in one of the best players in the world conversation, and it's just like you want to put him there, but over who? Over who? Right? Like who's been more impressive over the last couple of years, Anthony Edwards or Jason Tatum? You can make the argument it's Anthony Edwards. He knocked out Kevin Durant in the playoffs. He went to the Western Conference Finals as clearly the best player. This year, he knocked out LeBron and Luka, right? So even though Tatum has a championship, he didn't win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP and he didn't win the Finals MVP, right?
No,
So
I think he did win conference finals MVP, but he didn't get the finals one.
we could fact check that, but I'm pretty sure Jaylen Brown won both. But we
Mm-mm.
could fact check it. But
No, he
um,
did it. No, Tatum won that. I know that one for a fact, but he didn't win the one that mattered more. So regardless, fuck
we
Tatum.
yeah, we can fact check it. I think it was Brown, but we can fact check it. But either way, the point stands where Tatum is not a guy that you look at and say that, oh, okay, he's a bona fide top five player. So those are the two reasons why Boston is losing this series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I never believed Boston had a true number one. Like in my personal opinion, Tatum and Brown are both number twos playing around a flawless cast. They're playing around guys that could all shoot and defend, and Tatum and Brown can also shoot and defend. Boston lives and dies by the three, and that's one of the biggest reasons why they're down in the series. I mean, they live and die by it. Joe Mazzulla even said it too. This guy in an interview literally said he would rather lose his life than stop shooting threes. Like that's just what their identity is. They're gonna hit threes and lock you up. And if they're not hitting shots, then their defense better be flawless, or else they're probably gonna lose the game. And yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that this team is built like '04 Detroit. I would also make an argument they're like 2014 San Antonio, because 2014 San Antonio also didn't have a number one option. Like, it was, a second year Kawhi. It was an old Tim Duncan. It was an old Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, you know, led by a great coach. All those guys had the ability to beat you on any given night. And mind you, in the finals, we didn't even know who was going to win the finals MVP beforehand. Like me personally, I thought it was going to be Tony Parker, but they ended up giving it to Kawhi because he was guarding LeBron. Same thing with Boston last year. People didn't really know who was going to win it either. I mean, some thought it should have been Tatum, some thought it should have been Brown, and then it ended up being Jaylen Brown. Some people were even arguing that Drew Holiday should be in consideration for it because of how well he played. So Boston, yeah, they're just a really well constructed team. They don't have a real number one guy. And if I were to rank Jason Tatum, he's not top five, and he's arguably not top 10. Like he's top 15 for sure, but you can make an argument he's not top 10. I mean, if you want to look at some of these guys, I mean, there's Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards. Like, is he better than these guys? Don't know.
I
I
mean, we're
mean,
gonna talk about him in a little bit, but even Halliburton here, he's
right, that's
dropping
another
some
guy.
jaws. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I also just want to fact check it here. So I do have the fact check here. I was correct. It was Jaylen Brown. He did win the conference finals MVP and the finals MVP. So I just wanted to give the people the right thing there. So it was Jaylen Brown. So
Oh, it
yeah,
was.
yeah, it was. So Tatum didn't win either one of them. Which proves the point even further, where it's like he, this guy can't be trusted in the postseason. Like he's a good player. He's a good player, right? But he's certainly not top five, right? He's not any of those guys I have in the back over there, right? So um so yeah, and then last question on this series is who do you have win this series with the Knicks up 3-1?
Oh yeah, the Knicks, no question, bro. They're not blowing this shit.
So I mean, I want to give a hot take. I'm gonna say Knicks in six. I want to give a hot take, but here's the thing, bro. I feel like that game six back in New York, that crowd is gonna be, bro. It's gonna be like fucking World War III in there, bro. Like the fans are gonna be absolutely like it's gonna be ridiculous in there. And I don't know if Boston's gonna win that one, but I want to say Boston could win because they could win three in a row, but it's an incredible daunting task for sure.
Well,
Um,
I mean, looking at it, bro, if they're gonna win three in a row, I mean, you got to factor in these things. Do they have a number one guy? They don't. They have two number two guys who are inconsistent in the playoffs as well. And then the second thing to look at is that they live and die by the three. So unless, they're scorching hot 3 games in a row, I don't know if they're gonna get it done. Like they might do it in game 5 in Boston, but then they go to game 6 in New York and they hear that crowd. I don't know, man. And that definitely doesn't seem like Tatum's type of environment where he wants to prove that he's that guy.
nah, that's not Tatum. That's definitely not Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, we'll move on. We'll get into the second most compelling series here. Well, not compelling, but shocking series is the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Indiana Pacers won yesterday 129 to 109 to take a commanding 3 games to 1 lead against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, if you were living under a rock, the Cleveland Cavaliers were the best to the second best team, depending how you want to look at it, in the Eastern Conference all year. These
Mm-hmm.
guys had two 15-game winning streaks in the same season. That's never been done before in NBA history. They had two of them in the same season, 15 plus winning streaks. So, what's your take on Indiana? I mean, they beat the Bucks in round one, and they're beating the Cavaliers. They're up 3-1. What's your take?
All right. I mean, I don't think the Bucks should have been much of a surprise. I mean, they always beat the Bucks, and mind you, the Bucks were without Damian Lillard for almost the entire series anyway. So it's not really a shocker they won that one. But for them to be up 3-1 against Cleveland, I think what this tells you about Cleveland is that the roster clearly is not constructed very well for the playoffs. Like they were thinking they were gonna get away with this no defense backcourt in Garland and Mitchell, but unfortunately, that's not the case. I think what they need to do is they need to trade Garland for 3 and D guys this offseason. Like they need to get somebody back there with Mitchell who could take care of the dirty work defensively. Ty Jerome, he's a pretty solid point guard. I would give him a little bag, re-sign him so that way he could get some sets in as the one. You could bring him off the bench if you want, but I'll give him a little bag. Just trade Garland for like some backcourt defense, in my opinion. I think the Cavs should be better next season if they do that. But looking at the Pacers side of this, though, they won that game with Tyrese Halliburton only getting like 11 and 5, I believe, that game. Like they were up 80-39 at halftime, and mind you, their best player ain't even have to do much. So I mean, I think this really tells you that Cleveland needs like a defensive backcourt really badly, and I think it also tells you how deep Indiana is as a team. Because if you look at the box score, they had about 7 to 8 guys in double digits that game. Like they're a really deep team. Indiana, although they don't have like the most talent, they are very well constructed because the thing about Indiana is that even if you have a great defense, you're just not going to stop them because their best player doesn't even look to score. He's a pass first player, and he's surrounded by a bunch of guys who could shoot and defend. And then if you play him one on one, he's also good enough to ISO you. So realistically, even if you have a great defense, like it's just so hard to beat these guys. They're not the most talented, but they're just built very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we had done a show before the series started because I was talking over this series with a couple of buddies, and I actually called that I wouldn't be shocked if Indiana won this series. Because the thing about it is the thing about Indiana, they're going to be very, very hard to beat because, like Pete said, you can't stop them, but it's the reason why, right? Like they have the perfectly constructed team to win a championship, right? They need Halliburton to really be the number one to do that, but they have the perfect team. Like they all can shoot and they all play defense. Like they're all 3 and D. Every single guy that they play on the floor is 3 and D. even the guy who they try to pick on is their backup point guard TJ McConnell, and even he's feisty on defense. So it's like, bro, they all can play defense and they all can shoot, right? And so they're an extremely tough team to beat. So this was a little shocking to most, but it wasn't shocking to me because I called it before the series started. I said that Indiana could win this series. And I think Indiana has a potential chance to win it all. Like if Indiana goes up against the Knicks, I'll have my money on Indiana, and then that would put Indiana in the finals, depending on whoever comes out of the West. They can even win. So that's my take on the series. I'm not really too shocked by it. Cleveland. I mean, Donovan Mitchell had an incredible year, but let's be honest, bro. Like he's not a number one on a championship team, and their roster isn't well constructed enough to combat that, right? And so that's what you're kind of looking at in that series. But we'll move on. We'll get to the Western Conference now. The best series we have so far is the Thunder and the Nuggets. So yesterday, the Thunder did beat the Nuggets 92-87. They just squeezed by to not go down 3-1. So that series is tied 2-2. What's your take on this series?
This is giving me a 7 game series kind of vibe where the teams just go back and forth and somebody just has to win the game at the end. But I would still put my money on OKC. I mean, OKC was my favorite to win it all year. And I do think they are a little bit overall better as a basketball team than Denver is. But looking at the series, so guys, right? They won last game. They also completely blew Denver out the gym in game 2. And then you look at Denver's 2 wins. I mean, one of them came down to Aaron Gordon game winner. And then the other one, was just an overtime victory. So Denver, whenever they win, it's like they win off of like one, maybe two plays a game. So to determine the rest of the series, I think it's more in OKC's favor, in my opinion, just judging off that.
Okay. I disagree with you there. I think that that's what the playoffs is. The playoffs comes down to one or two plays. Like, OKC could be more explosive, sure, cool. But if we're talking for a grinded out 7 game series, give me the guys who are making plays down the stretch to win games, right? And I was kind of hoping that the Nuggets took a 3 games to 1 lead because that would make you feel real comfortable. But I have Denver, man. I have Denver. I don't know if we did a playoff show, a playoff prediction show, but I said that Jokic was good for a series, and it turns out that I was wrong. He's good for 2 series, right? And he's good to beat OKC. I mean, Jokic is unbelievable, and I know he hasn't had the best series against OKC, but a player statistically doesn't have to play well for higher IQ individuals that know the game to understand that it's not just his numbers that are impacting the game. It's the fact that he's on the floor. It's the fact that he's facilitating the offense. It's the fact that he's instilling confidence in his team. It's the fact that he's even being head coach, playing head coach sometimes on the bench for them, right? Like it's everything. It's his experience. It's his savviness. It's his veteran leadership. It's the way that he approaches the game, and it's his gravitational pull towards it's freeing up guys because he's getting double teamed, or 3 guys are looking at him while he has the ball and he's making plays. And then you got to give Jamal Murray credit. Like Jamal Murray's hooping. Aaron Gordon hit a game winner. He's hooping too. I would have wished that Michael Porter Jr. could have been a little more effective, but I think this is going. I think this is going 6, man. I honestly think that. I think that Denver wins the next 2 games. I do. I really do. I think Denver goes back. They beat OKC, and then Denver closes it at home. I got Denver in 6.
Yeah, I got OKC in 7. I just think everybody's gonna win their home games, but I do give Oklahoma City a lot of credit though. Like I've never seen anybody guard Jokic so well. Like Jokic has still been like extremely effective. Of course, he's a high IQ basketball player. Like it's hard to like shut him down completely. I mean, the best I've ever seen anybody guard him was probably Minnesota last year, and that wasn't even a bad series for Jokic anyways. He still played well. They just kind of contained him a bit better than everyone else. But OKC has been containing them even better. That front court of Chet and Hartenstein, man, like that's something else, bro. Like that's two very good defenders right there. But Jokic, obviously he's a high IQ guy. You're not gonna stop him completely, no matter what you do. So they really OKC really can't do more than what they're doing now, but they have other guys stepping up too. Jamal's playing well, Gordon, even Russell Westbrook is playing well. Although I don't expect that to continue for too long. He's gonna sell them the series in the end. I just know it. I've seen this guy play a million fucking times. Yeah, I don't even need to look in the future to know that's what's gonna happen with him.
All right. And then was that oh, and then the last series here, which we'll discuss, is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors. So Minnesota's up 2-1. You guys know obviously if you haven't been living under a rock, Steph is out. He's probably going to be out minimum game 6, but they don't know yet. It could be longer. That's being hopeful is that he's back for a game 6. Right now, game 4 is happening right now. Minnesota's up by 3 with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And again, Minnesota's up 2-1. And again, this is without Steph. So what's your take on this series and how do you see it shaping out?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Golden State is probably cooked. I don't know if they're going to take another game without Steph, to be honest. Like I know they took game 1, but they still had Steph in the beginning. And don't get me wrong, like Steve Kerr, he did a phenomenal job coaching that game. He put Draymond Green at point guard. He was running the perfect plays for everyone. They played great defensively, and it was enough to get them that game. But from there, Minnesota made the adjustments. And unfortunately, for Steve Kerr and the Warriors, without Steph, they're just simply not the better basketball team. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to force a game 6. Like, that's how bad this team is. Like, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but prior to the deadline, Golden State was on pace to literally missing the playoffs. And mind you, that was with Steph in and Jimmy out. This time you have Jimmy in and Steph out. So the team is worse than it was back then, realistically. So, I mean, if they do get a game and Steph comes back in game 6, I'm gonna give a hot take and say Golden State is gonna win the series in 7, but it's not really looking that way right now. I think Minnesota's probably just gonna close it up in 5.
All right. Yeah, I have Golden State in 7. This is ironically, and no one said this on the internet. I'm the first person to say this, and I'm like, wow, nobody has this take. But this is if you want Steph to be out, this is the perfect matchup for Steph to be out. Like I know it's obviously not ideal, right? But this is the only matchup that I feel they would survive with Steph being out. Any other matchup, they'd be toast, right? But the thing with Minnesota is they can't score. Okay, so they're great on defense, but they can't score. Especially, you could put the defense on Anthony Edwards. You let Julius Randle score his buckets, but outside of that, it's rough for them offensively, right? That's why all these games, even without Steph, that's why all these games are close. Like even now, they're playing them close. They're only down 2 points without Steph almost at halftime, right? So I think they're going to keep it afloat. I think they're going to win one more game. Potentially, it could be this one. It's a 2-point game heading into halftime. They could tie the series 2-2. You blow game 5. Who cares? 3-2, and then you get Steph back, right? So this is the only series that I think is acceptable for Steph to be out, and the Golden State could still kind of, string and claw and try to gut out one more win because Minnesota just can't score, right? Like if they were getting anybody else, it would have been lights out. But yeah, Minnesota struggles to score, so you're gonna have a chance. That's my take, and I have Golden State in 7.
Yeah, I mean, I got Minnesota in 5, but if Golden State does manage to take a game, I'm gonna say Golden State in 7 in that case. But another thing you do have to factor in though is even if Steph does come back in game 6, he's likely not going to be fully healthy. Like he might be like wobbling out there and stuff. So that is another thing to take into account because they're saying game 6 is like the minimum date. he'll be like excluded, even just a little bit to play. Like if this was a regular season, he would probably be out for probably like at least another 3 weeks, I'd say, based on the injury that he has. But, you know, Steph Curry is great. And that is exactly why I'm going to say Golden State in 7 if they manage to take one without him.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's not just him being able to make shots or run around. It's just his presence on the floor. Like great players, their presence on the floor impacts the game tremendously by just being on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So by him just being on the floor in Game 6 is going to be huge for them. If they can make it there, we'll see. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's the end of the show. We went over the draft lottery, how Dallas Mavericks have the first overall pick, and that's kind of crazy. And the Spurs have the second overall pick, which is also kind of crazy. And then we went over the NBA playoffs, guys. We went over all the series, how we think they're going to go, etc. So it was a great show, and we are happy to be back. Before we get out of here, guys, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe. Help us to impact and to reach as many people as possible. Also, guys, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. Follow us on Rumble, guys, at Just Keep Up Podcast on Rumble, to get the raw, uncensored version of us. We are going to be talking about some pretty crazy topics. I'm not gonna lie. We all know the Shiloh Hendricks story, guys. We're gonna cover that, and we're gonna give our take on that on Rumble in a couple days. So definitely, guys, go check us out on Rumble. Also, guys, check me out at Kurt's Philosophy if you are interested in the world's deepest, darkest secrets. And we'll talk to you guys again very soon. And with that being said, bro, do you have anything before we close here?
No. Or actually, yeah. One thing. Just follow my YouTube channel at PT YouTube channel. I said it in the beginning, but I'll say it one more time.
All right, guys, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. All right, guys, peace.